Hello again and welcome to another 360 Timmy. So today we're in Epping Forest in Essex, and today my special guest is Evan Chick.
Alright guys.
Welcome Evan.
Hi.
So Evan is a junior survivor and he's got a fantastic story to tell. In fact, I contacted him about 3 months ago to come on and I didn't get a reply back, but it was basically because he was out in the wilderness on one of his expeditions. So I really want to explore your life because it's super exciting. I've read your bio. I don't want to miss anything because it's all really quite important. So tell us about your early life and your kind of outlook.
So I grew up living on a farm in Sussex. So it was a friend's farm. I grew up there. My dad was a carpenter, so he used to work on the farm. We lived there, and it had sort of a fields and woodland and stuff. So growing up, I was homeschooled. So I spent so much of my life out and about, just living outdoors pretty much. So it'd be sort of like, say, bye to mum and dad in the morning and off to the woods, caked in mud and come home later on. And it just sort of, it gave me a love for the outdoors, a love for nature. And then sort of moving on through life, that sort of, when I was young, turned, your playground. And then sort of, as you get older, it turns into your school and, your learning environment. And then within sort of recent years, it's become work. And this is the sort of the path that I want to keep it going on. But I guess really the outdoors, it means a lot more to me. So when I was 13, me and my family set off on a 10-month challenge. So we did a charity challenge where we decided to drive the entire coast of the UK in a 1965, I'm pretty sure. I've said that so many times that it's just gone from my brain now. So it was a Morris Traveller. So
I saw this. Your dad's a carpenter, isn't he? So he built the back part.
So when I was 9, we sort of, as a project to learn maths, through sort of building and stuff, we sort of, it was a complete wreck when we got it, and we turned it into like a campfire fit 5.
Yeah.
And then we did this challenge, so living on £10 a day, so £5 food and £5 fuel, and drove around. And it was absolutely brilliant. It took us 10 months. It was a brilliant challenge, and we did it for a sort of a sail training charity in Hull. And an amazing challenge, but 5 people in space no bigger than a sort of small double bed for 10 months, living on £5 for food for 5 people.
In cold and hot weather.
In cold and hot weather and rain. Especially sort of for me, it really pushed sort of my mental health. I was 13 at the time, to a pretty sort of dark place.
Yeah. Because they're quite formative years to around 13, isn't it?
They certainly are.
All kinds of things are going on, aren't they? So.
Yeah. So that was a big challenge for me, and it brought to head sort of struggles that I'd had sort of my entire life, but I guess never really understood, or never really, as a kid I sort of just thought, being sort of getting quite frustrated, or sort of not dealing with change or whatever in that sort of way. Brought it all to a head, and for many months it was just falling out with my family, sort of, especially my dad. So me and my dad were quite close, but really almost sort of destroyed that relationship. It was pretty tough, and almost sort of just quit the challenge. Like, this is not working. We just need to go home. Yeah. But then I guess I still sort of wonder sort of how it came about. But I sort of thought, what about if I go back to that thing that I've always loved, an environment that I've always loved being in, which is the outdoors. Yeah. So I sort of just getting out there a little bit more, doing some things. And then I thought, actually, this is sort of building my confidence through doing stuff like this, And then I thought, well, if I'm building my confidence here, I could take that back and apply it to the places where I'm struggling. And so that sort of started the project Junior Survivor, which is about, being only 13 at the time, as sort of junior. It was like, a junior survivor is someone who could survive in the wilderness, but also survive in life. Yeah. And that's how it started. And like I was saying a minute ago, it sort of realised, coming out the other side of that, wow, there's other young people out there who are struggling, with their mental health. And sort of, if I could share what's just helped me with them, maybe that can make a difference to them. And so that started the journey of sort of that I'm still on now, and hopefully will be on for the rest of my life.
And I want to come back and talk about that, but I just want to go back to early life again. Yeah. So the premise is also that you lived in a traditional bricks and mortar house in suburbia, but that's very much not the case, isn't it? A blue bus, am I talking about? Yes. And Evan's sake?
Yes,
Tell us about that story?
Yeah. So, I guess originally till I was about 3, lived in a normal house up north. And then sort of, I think, it was those struggles again, was sort of just coming out as a toddler, just getting really frustrated over things, and just being you know, my parents used to call it the grumpy elf. So it's like this inner voice within my head that just expressed my emotions very grumpy, which is definitely still. I definitely asked my sisters, I'm still very grumpy, but and then they sort of said, well, you know, living this life is not you know, good for him. So they sort of, you know, instead of for heaven's sake, let's just hit the road in an old sort of blue bus. It was like a community ambulance.
Yeah.
We hit the road, and I think on that day we headed right down to Sussex to this farm where we said we'll just spend 2 weeks here, because we were homeschooled. It was a lot of homeschool stuff going down in that area. That was winter. The rain came, the mud came, bus got stuck in the mud. 14 years later, we were still there.
Wow.
So yeah, time passed, and over that time we sort of moved from a blue bus to like a traditional sort of Siberian Russian sort of house called an Isbar.
And actually, your dad built that.
Yeah. So he built that, and then there's been all sorts. There was the Morris Traveller. There was like a giant pedal-powered boat, so it's a bit like a giant pedalo.
Yeah.
So we lived on the canals for a little while on that. There was an old Toyota pickup with something on the back. 1937 Citroen pickup with a log cabin on the back. There's been some, interesting...
Why has your dad not had a YouTube channel? I mean, that just all sounds absolutely fantastic.
He always says to me, he says, you know, all these videos of people building houses get so many views. He's like, we need to have done it years ago.
Yeah.
Missed the trick there.
So completely different background. So the home ed thing, again, just before we pick up on more of the junior survivor stuff. So what, have you done GCSE exams?
No.
Right now, or are you going to? How does that work with home ed?
Yeah, so home ed, I think the only curriculum, I don't think it's changed, is you've just got to prepare your kids to live in a modern day society. Yeah. And I guess people can interpret that however they will. Yeah. So you don't have to sit in exams or anything. You can. A lot of sort of friends who are home ed have done. Yeah. But I think I'm not an academic person. Yeah. I always really struggle with academic stuff. I'm much more practical, hands-on. Yeah.
That's good as well, isn't it? Not everyone is academic. I'm not either. I mean,
no. So. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a brilliant option for those, you know, who it doesn't always fit. You don't sort of fit into that sort of way of sort of life. Yeah. So no, I don't think I'll ever sort of do academic sort of qualifications.
So at the age of 17 now, have you finished the home ed stuff as such?
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah. So the sort of growing up, it was sort of, you know, you get your basic sort of. You know, maybe you call like school curriculum sort of stuff, sort of your maths, your English, stuff like that. So our parents sort of helped me sort of, and my other sisters through that. Lots of like projects and stuff like that. And then since sort of the age of 13, maybe a bit older, it started to change, and it's now much more focused on sort of the direction I'm trying to head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I mean, so do you in the future? Is there an employment thing? Do you want to run a business? Do you want to live off the land kind of thing? What's in your head? What's the goal there?
Oh goodness,
a bit daunted to say that when you're only 17.
Yeah,
so
I'm not sure. To be honest with you, I think it's. I'm not really sure whether or not I'd start a business. I don't really know anything about business, to be honest with you. But if I can find a company that's sort of doing the element of youth expeditions, which is sort of giving young people who don't get the chance.
I'm planning to do that, aren't there? So,
there definitely are. If I can get in with one of them, you know, that would be amazing. But, you know, if I have to sort of find my own way of doing it and set up a company, you know, who knows? It's early days at the moment.
Absolutely. So let's go back to Junior Survivor. So I first saw you on YouTube. Okay. You've been doing that for quite some time, actually. All kinds of things, like from chopping trees down, how to strip this animal down and eat it, all that kind of stuff. And then this year, I mean, as I mentioned, I reached out to you about 3 months ago. I didn't hear anything, and I thought, oh, that's it. And then you very kindly came back and went, no, I've been away from wilderness. And you just dropped a video this week, which I'll post the link to. I thought it was fantastic of your 3 months going around Scotland. Yeah, and all your trials and tribulations, all self-shot as well, of course.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. Yeah, I haven't done YouTube for a while. I'm not sure why. But then I did this trip. So I spent just under 2 months up in Scotland. About the longest I've sort of been away on my own is just about a week. So I thought, 2 months, I'll be all right. I'm going to meet up with some people along the way. I spent the first 2 weeks sort of on my own. Oh goodness, it was so boring. I mean, I love being outdoors. But I was like, I didn't see anyone or really talk to anyone for 2 weeks. I was like, goodness, I don't think I can do this again.
Did you take anything like books or anything with you? Or?
I thought I got to cut down on weight. So no books, and I really wish I took a book. So, there's no signal, no power,
Yeah.
So it was even just sort of like, where, you might just want to message someone and say, oh, hi, how's things going? Or even just to sort of message home and say, I'm alive, sort of thing. It was very little power here and there. I mean, the weather was not always too great.
And you had midges as well, because you were in Scotland.
Oh, yeah, goodness, yeah, midges. And like ticks and everything. It was...
I think you also said you ended up on an island, but with not a lot of wood, which is what you need to fuel your camp.
Exactly. I learned a good lesson there to do a bit more research before. I was talking to someone, they said, oh yeah, this island called Tyree, it's beautiful, it's got these lovely beaches, it's like being in the Caribbean. I was like, oh yeah, let's go there. I get there and it was like, the day I arrived, it was beautiful in the evening, beautiful sunset. I woke up the next morning, like there was a storm had just hit, and it was pretty much that storm stayed there for the entire week. The stove I took needed little twigs, there was no wood, and there was barely any fresh water. It was a nightmare.
And I think there's a bit in it where the rain's coming down so badly, your tent's actually been compromised, so you're very quickly packing up. And sorry, and you got garroted by a dog there. You pack it up, and then I think you end up in a bothy, don't you? It looks like you're in a bothy.
Yeah, it was. The rain came down. My tent was sort of, literally, it was like 70 mile an hour wind. Completely crushed my tent, bent all the poles and stuff, and it was a pretty good tent. I think if we veer down this way, it may be a bit of off-roading in a minute.
That's all right. No dog leads. That's fine. Yeah.
And it was absolutely horrendous weather. And luckily, it was sort of like a bothy / like a piece of sort of like art installation.
Yeah, I saw that. You had the kind of glass. You did some great shots from that, actually. I like that.
And,
where you're looking out at the storm and where the boat was supposed to take you home, but it wasn't going that day because the storm was in.
So I ended up sleeping in that, and it was. But I was sort of thinking this trip was going to be, because a lot of people said, you've just got to get out there, live adventure. That's how you're going to learn your skills. And this is what this year's been about for me, really. And although I was thinking, I'm going to learn navigation skills, mountaineering skills, to be honest, I didn't really learn any of that. I just learned like the mental element of being an explorer. Just sort of, and the video was about resilience. So it was about mental and sort of physical. And the mental was, being away from home, being away from family.
Yeah.
Not having the way of just being able to communicate to anybody. Or even like the relaxation of being at home. It's not like you haven't got constantly, there's usually a bit of food in the cupboard, or, you turn the tap and there's running water, or, not your house is going to blow down. But it's just being out, there in a storm for 2 weeks is like, you've got to think, right, I need to at least drink, a litre or 2 litres a day, minimum, really.
Yeah.
I've got the only food I've brought with me is stuff I've got to boil water for, but I can't boil anything.
Yeah.
And then even to make water safe if I've just found it out of a lock or whatever.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That's
so it's just thinking about things like that, and then the physical element of being battered by the elements and cold and wet, and just sort of like not being able to let anyone know that you're safe. Or even like I didn't even know this weather front was coming in. It was a beautiful morning. I was like, oh, this is the change for these 2 weeks. And then I went to get off, and they're like, no, you need to get your tent somewhere safe now. The person was like, it's like 70 mile an hour winds coming off. Oh my goodness, within half an hour, it was all hella broken loose.
Crazy. So on that trip, what do you take in your bag then? What you got? A tent and cooking equipment.
Yeah, tent, stove, pans, food, sort of spare pair of clothes really. Can't take a lot. So it's just sort of the basics.
What sort of weight does that come to then?
It was quite heavy in the end because I was carrying at least 2 weeks worth of food, which is quite extreme. Yeah. So it was coming to sort of like into the low 20 kilos.
Crikey.
Which is pretty heavy.
So you come out with a different set of muscles when you left.
Exactly. Yeah. It was interesting.
So have you got any more trips like that planned then? Well, obviously, you've learnt your lesson on that one, but have you got any more of those kind of expeditions planned?
Yeah, to be honest, not at the moment. I haven't got anything planned. I've sort of been full out this whole year, going places. But a lot of that sort of come to an end, or sort of dying out now. So I'm sort of over the next sort of couple of months start sort of trying to make some new stuff happen.
Yeah. So, and how do you progress now, the junior survivor thing? Where does that go to next when you know you're no longer a junior, I guess, and you're a young adult? Where does that move on to, do you think?
Yeah, I think it will stay definitely as junior survivor, because I think over the last sort of few years, and I think a few people have mentioned this to me, and I think I maybe need to sort of mention it a little bit more on my social media, is that junior survivor now is about like bringing up the next generation of junior survivors.
Yeah.
So, you know, I sort of, it originally started out as me trying to become a junior survivor, someone who can survive in the wilderness, but also in life, and the connection there. And now it's sort of saying, you know, it's your time to become junior survivor, guys. So that's hopefully where it'll go, and whether or not that leads me to, you know, just continue on the path of junior survivor, or go to another, you know, maybe go to another company in a few years once I've got that experience and stuff of leading expeditions.
Is that in partnership? Have you? I think on your website or your blog, you're an ambassador for a couple of organisations.
Yes, I'm an ambassador for an organisation called the British Exploring Society, which is like the ideal company pretty much. So they set up like 90 years ago by some of the explorers who were going on like Scott's final expedition.
Yeah.
So, you know, the sort of that age of exploration, and they set it up. And originally it was for, so whoever could pay to go on an expedition. A lot of sort of like public schools, and then over sort of recent years they've sort of changed it to make it more accessible to all young people.
Yeah.
And those especially who may not usually get the opportunity. So I did an expedition back just as sort of as the COVID sort of broke and we were allowed out and to do these sort of things. So then I think it was, when was it, 2021 I think?
Yeah.
Did this expedition to Scotland, 2 weeks, absolutely amazing, like life-changing. You know, I just spent 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of young people, and just hearing these young people's stories, where they'd come from, what happened to them in their lives, things that I'm like, goodness me, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds should not have ever experienced stuff like that. And then, you know, they're like, I've never opened up to anyone in my whole life about this, and I've just spent 3 days with you, and just the environment I've been in has just bonded us into a team, and I'm happy to share. And then, like, you know, people who, at the end, you know, people who are like, you know, proper tough guys, you know, you just in tears sobbing as we're leaving, and it's really sort of touched me to think, wow, this has actually got potential, the outdoors, to become something.
Do you think that's because they're leaving the digital trappings behind, like you said earlier? I mean, you don't have your phone and all that stuff.
I think it's definitely, it's definitely, you know, there's massive pressures on social media now, and to just escape that and not have to worry about that. I mean, when you're out and about, the only things you really need to worry about, make sure you've got water, make sure you've got food, make sure you've got somewhere to spend the night, keeping yourself safe and just enjoying the experience, really. So it really takes your mind off of anything that's unnecessary just in life. You know, there's so much of our lives are quite unnecessarily to think about. Just get rid of all that and just focus on what's essential.
Yeah, that's great stuff you're doing there. That really is. Quite admirable. And you also did an expedition North Finland, Arctic Circle.
I think we might. I'm not quite sure where we're going now, so I think we'll head down here if that's all right, and just see where we.
If I'm lost, it's all right. We got all day to get back to the car. So you went to was it North Finland, and you bordered the Arctic Circle? I mean, that was a cool expedition as well.
It was amazing. So when I was 12, my dad's the farm we used to live on. It was a campsite, and there was a company that used to teach stuff to the campers, and they also ran expeditions as well. My dad said, "Oh, come, you know, my son, come and just do a little bit of volunteering with you. He's happy to get stuck in, do whatever. Just the opportunity to sit on some lessons and learn some stuff." And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So I spent a sort of summer period doing that with them. And then they said to me when sort of February came around, they actually said, "Oh, we're going up to Finland now for a week if you want to come." I was like, "Yes, definitely." So I went up to Finland, minus sort of 20 up to sort of minus 25.
And you're camping in that?
Yes, we did. We camped in snow shelters and cabins, stuff like that. Dog sledding, snowshoeing, sort of cross-country skiing and stuff like that. So a week up in, it was a good few hundred miles into the Arctic Circle. I was just like, wow, this is polar explorer is my goal. That's what I want to do. So that taught me a lot, and then really set me on the road for expedition life. And then that's led to last year I spent 5-6 weeks, 5,000 miles away in Central Asia with the British Exploring Society again, on an expedition with those young people, climbing up high altitude mountains and stuff. And then And yeah, then that journey, yeah, back round has brought me to sort of getting the opportunity to become an ambassador for them. And that's all about just trying to inspire the next generation of young explorers to come through and just go on these expeditions. So I'm going to a school in a couple of days to give a talk. And they were saying, I just asked a bit about the school, and they said young people who never even probably ever left London. So
Yeah.
people who had never even thought that they could go and spend 6 weeks up a mountain or canoe around the Yukon or whatever. So, you know, I'm going to go there and hopefully just sort of make some, you know, just tell these young people about that, and, you know, just be maybe hopefully be part of that story, that their journey of start a journey for them. Of
I mean, I feel you've
adventure.
led a life double that of a 17-year-old. I mean, if you weren't, do you ever imagine if you were in suburbia going to school Monday to Friday, kind of?
Yeah.
You imagine what you wouldn't have been able to do
Yeah,
if it had been different.
Yeah, definitely. I sort of wonder what sort of what's
I mean, I can't actually imagine how interesting that it'll be when you talk to these young people, because you have got, I mean, even just in the last 20 minutes or so, you've just got a fascinating story. I mean, it's incredibly inspiring. You should just keep that going. I think it's
it's there, definitely the path and sort of heading on.
yeah. So I guess we could see more of you through the Junior Survivor and more content maybe.
Yeah, definitely. It's hopefully I made that video, and it's sort of a lot has come from that. I only posted it a couple of days ago, and a lot of people sort of just saying, oh, well done, or not just that, but like people saying, it seems to sort of be making a difference to some people, and people saying, oh, I found this really interesting, So I sort of realised that, hopefully, these videos will make a difference and maybe sort of get some more of them out there.
That's brilliant. Well, Evan, thank you very much. It's been an
right, no
absolute
worries.
pleasure to meet you.
Brilliant.
I can't wait
You
to see
too.
where you go next. It's really exciting.
Who knows? Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Have a super day.
Thanks.